Hi, I'm Chris Cronin. I'm the director of the Moor.
I'm David Edward Robertson. I always forget that bit. And I play Bill in the Moor.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dormer Phillips and I play Eleanor in The Moor. Am I going to get this to you?
There you go.
Back here. I'm Vicky Hackett and I play Liz in The Moor.
Liz the Ranger.
So tell us a little bit more about The Moor. For those who aren't aware of the film or can't deduce from this poster, The Moor might be a little bit of a horror film.
I think it gives away the tone, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not subtle. The Moor it's about grief. It's about survivors' guilt, northern boogeymen. The Moor and its dark and extensive history, hundreds and hundreds of years worth of history. But it's about two characters, a childhood friend and a father of a child that goes missing 25 years ago, supposedly on the Moor, taken. And it's 25 years later, and the person who was responsible is going to be released. And so the father is like, I need your help. I think we can find proof to keep this man behind bars, but we need to go back on the moors. So that's essentially the story and where it starts. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, and it's told from a Yorkshire point of view, definitely. So, and that was kind of insightful for me because I'm like Manchester-based. And to hear basically that, people in Yorkshire, like Chris's age and stuff, they're kind of brought up just fearing the Moor. Yeah. They don't know why. There's just something, it's like a boogeyman all on its own. And that's essentially, that was the germ of the film and kind of what it's built around, really. And that was quite fascinating. And it was a way of thinking about it and looking at it that I didn't think about. It had different connotations for me. So yeah.
So you could watching the film. It's very much a character piece, but don't be fooled. At the heart of it, the bones of this movie is a horror film, and it came from me and the writer. We're both from Yorkshire, and we grew up in the '90s, where obviously the histories of the Moors weren't told to us. We just knew that our parents didn't like it. They were uncomfortable with the Moors, and in the playground, you come up with your own theories. And we kind of tried to get back into the mindset of that, where it's like, why did it creep us out? What was so daunting? Because for me, the appeal of this movie was two things. I really love a good Eldritch location horror, and there's something about the northern trauma from the Moors. It's like a collective thing. It's everything on the Moors happened so long ago, but we still kind of feel it up here, and that was something worth tapping into, I think. Yeah? Do you want to say anything? You just got character study. She can tell you everything about Eleanor.
I think an interesting point, though, because obviously in the 90s or possibly slightly before, you had the Moors murders, which fed on top of that mythology and that kind of shared boundary between Manchester and Yorkshire in the Pennines. Was that something you thought you had to be particularly sensitive about, or was the underlying eldritch fear almost of the location more to you than the kind of contemporary events?
I think it was. We were aware of it, the sensitivity of it. So we noticed we don't spend much time dealing with the killer. It's almost like a backstory element to it. There's so much history there that we wanted to delve in so much more. So we took inspirations from the Cheshire Lindau Man, where there was a body found on the moors that was strangled to death, preserved in the peat. That was very interesting to us. And then also the Standing Stones in Ilkley and those kind of places where there's, we didn't intend to go out of our way to make a folk horror. It's just when you start exploring the English folklore and history, that just kind of comes up through the story. So it was an amalgamation of things, really. For me, it was more about the themes and the locale that really appealed to me.
I think one of those themes was grief and almost the cycle of abuse. The two father-daughter dynamics, although obviously one of them isn't a father-daughter, very similarly mirror each other.
You almost see the good side and the bad side in a way, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like it was very deliberate. You were seeing a complete story from 2 or 4, I guess, different perspectives. So you didn't need to know about one relationship because you saw it in the other one. Is that something that was very deliberate?
No, we'll just take credit for it. Yeah, because there was a relationship, obviously, with Mark. Mark is such a warm and friendly person on set that I think that affection just came through. He was very handsy, wasn't he? Yeah.
Like jazz handsy.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
I'll pass it on so you can talk more about that. But Paul had the treatment for this script before The Conjuring, and it was inspired by the Warrens. Was it the Warrens?
Yeah.
It was them two characters, so we were looking like a married couple that just had this skill set. And then the Conjuring came out and made them famous. We went, can't do that anymore. And then we looked at brother and sister, and then we stumbled upon the father and daughter, and that, like say, parallel comparison became very interesting. It added another layer to it. Were you aware of that on the set?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was quite interesting, to be honest, because obviously me and Mark we just clicked instantly, and it all became very simple to kind of be that mother and that father-daughter kind of dynamic. And then I always saw you as a father figure to Claire.
Yeah.
So I do, and she obviously has her whole monologue about it as well.
Yeah.
So
you cried on set with that.
I did. A little Hollywood tear, and then we didn't get that, but it's all good. It's fine. But yeah, I think for me that was something that stood out, and I do think the parallels you can see that in the film, definitely. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
I think like there's lots of subgenres of horror, but ultimately there's only really two. You've got your kind of ghost house horror that has the monster on the side outside, and then you go around the corner and there's a jump scare, and the jump scare is what you go for. But there's also the more kind of roller coaster horror where you can see the big dip, and all the enjoyment comes from the slow build up and the climb. And I felt like the Moor was that latter type of horror, that it made it you sit in that uncomfort, in that kind of building fear. And what that allowed you to do was kind of slowly introduce that supernatural element, so the normal became supernatural, and that creates a degree of ambiguity. Is that ambiguity something that is just for the audience, or is that also something for you? Like, are you discovering that as a filmmaker as you're making it, or is it purely speculative on the viewer's point of view?
Well, I think we never want to really explain the ending. And we don't explain how all this kind of came to be. We just enjoyed the human aspects of the journey. I think good horror films, even great horror films, struggle to figure out a good ending. Either everybody dies, and you go, well, that's horror, but not satisfying. Everybody lives, and you go, but it's horror. Why did nobody die? And so you try and find that healthy, give them enough answers, not enough answers. Give them a conclusion, but don't close the door too hard. And not for sequel potential, but the horror is the fear of the unknown. If we tell you too much, then you get to go to bed and that book is closed. So I like the fact we raised as many questions as we answered, and I think that was very intentional. Some of my favorite horrors are from the 70s. Some of them are clean cut, but a lot of them I go, I don't feel like that was settled, and now I've got an extra phobia. So.
Are we talking about Argento there, perhaps?
Yeah. But I think one of the writer's main inspirations was Don't Look Now, which is a massive slow burn descendant. So it's a true crime aspect to it that just is so grounded in reality that when we descend into hell, you kind of go, you don't question it. You go, this makes sense. It's so slow. Because essentially we kept getting called a folk horror, but our intention was cosmic in some ways. It's just we wanted something so unfathomable, something hard to comprehend, and it's just naturally come out that way. So it's very interesting how it's being perceived now. It's really fun to see how people perceive it.
Awesome, thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So very quickly before we go, could you tell us a little bit about what's next for the Moor and what's next for yourselves?
The Moor has just got international sales. We're with Raven Banner right now. They're the ones shopping it around the world. And we got our man over there, Phil, who's representing Bulldog Distribution, who's doing UK. You walked right up there, mate. Like just to hear your name. So So we've got UK distribution, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it. So we're really happy. Thank you.
I just open to offers is what I would say. Really, that's it.
Vicky's probably really busy.
Yeah, ditto. I completely agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of telly things coming up, but I don't quite know when yet. But yeah,
I'm actually working.
I'll be in a coat.
I feel. I gave her a male ranger jacket because I just wanted it to be like proper big shoulder, like authority figure, and I don't think she needed it. She just walked on set and went, yeah, okay, this is. Yeah, a little bit, wasn't it? A little bit.
Awesome, thank you very much. We'll talk a little bit more after the film. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.